Check that bad boy out. Eh? I had a dermatology appointment this morning. So that the thing I've been dealing with on my neck for a while now. I thought it was like a cyst or something. Nah, it's not. Thankfully, the good news is it's nothing scary. It's kind of common, and basically the way that the dermatologist explained it to me is skin is insanely good at repairing itself. And basically, when whatever it was, like a pimple or whatever, ingrown hair, whatever thing had caused this initially, by me trying to like futz with it and pop it, I had caused some damage, and the skin like over aggressively healed, and basically built like not a callus, but like an excess amount of skin in that spot. Kind of like a little, like, bit of shield, if you will. Yeah. So, anyway, I was like, alright, so is that a bad thing? He's like, oh, no, it's easy. We can get it removed if you want. I'm like, that'd be nice. And he's like, cool. Basically, all I'm going to do is lightly numb you and then shave it off. So, needless to say, I've got this here, and yeah. Yeah, I know, oversharing, but this is the weird things that like you learn that like basically your skin is so much better at healing than basically anything else that it can overheal itself. It's like some video game nonsense. Yes, actually, Moto Guppy, now that you ask, so for Father's Day, right? My brother-in-law and my wife got me this little like faux Lego kit of a Buffalo Trace bourbon bottle. I'll get it a little bit closer. You can see I screwed up the sticker for the labeling. So like the B's all misaligned. But yeah, it's a little like Lego kit. It was fun to build. It was just something interesting. But yeah, a little random stuff in my background. I'll eventually change it when I figure out some things. So that actually brings me. I was about to ask if it was a Minecraft one. I mean, it's close enough, right? Minecraft is just video game Legos. Let's be honest. That'll bring me on a topic, which is to say that I eventually might change some things. Statement, which is to like the background of this, like Leo's even saying, Puffer's rule. P.S. You still need a tank behind you. I don't know that like I need one, but yes, I understand. A lot of people would prefer to see an aquarium. I get that. And I might just like... I might do some of the stuff like, say, Bob Steenfott does, because it's one thing that's kind of a elegant solution. I don't know if elegant solution is right, but it's an easy solution, which is to say you get a bunch of B-roll of certain aquariums and then use a green screen and put it behind you. No, you do need one, Leo. So I might. There's a thought of doing something like that because, like, my wife, as an example, could do some longer recordings of some of my tanks, and we could have that as just like background images. I'm kind of trying to figure out how and what I want to format, and this conversation might be a part of that. And so let me get into the topic because this actually, thank you, Leo. This branches us in nicely. So we started with Aquarium 911. We've had 4 episodes so far, and I literally cannot, at that pace, it as of right now, it is quite literally impossible to keep up with the number of emails I'm receiving. Right now, I actually could probably do 2 of them a week and still not catch up if that pace continues. So we can see where that's a little bit of a problem, right? Because in theory, then, I never catch up, or we just indefinitely do versions of Aquarium 911. Now, in theory, eventually, I'll have covered a large majority of, like, the problems most people are going to face, so that they probably become some level of repeat. However, even if they're a repeat, I kind of enjoy directly helping people in this way. I might get tired of it eventually. I don't know. Like, I wonder if, like Chris from Fish for Thought, as an example, I wonder if he gets tired of Fish Tank Review. And not to say that I don't think it's great. Like, I think he, like, had a good idea, and it got crazy popular, and he leaned into it, like I think most creators would. But I kind of sometimes wonder, and I haven't really had an opportunity to talk to Chris. I used to watch a lot of his stuff very early, and I imagine he has to get tired and wants to do some other things, and it might not even be fish related, I would imagine. But yeah, I think he's at like 400 something episodes or something crazy like that. I mean, he's done a lot of them, and but that's become kind of his thing. And yeah, under promise, over deliver. Yeah, and that's another thing, right? If his other videos get ignored, that is inherently kind of demoralizing, right? If you're a creator, you kind of hope that people are there for kind of whatever you want to talk about within reason, right? Because it would be like, as an example, I created an entirely separate channel to do my other hobby, you know, this brown water stuff, right? Because I know that the people who watch me for fish content, 99% of you could not give a flying F about whiskey, right? And that should be expected. So it would be weird if I started trying to like convert my current audience outside of saying like, hey, I'm doing this shoe channel. If you're interested, check it out. Just that, you know, kind of similar to what I did. I've talked about it a couple of times. And then I've posted, I think, once on the community tab. It's just like, hey, I started it. Here's my first video. If you want to watch, I appreciate it. If not, you're here for fish. I get it, right? It's one of those things. It would be weird to like just try to force the like random whiskey videos onto a channel that I've been doing for what, 6 years, kind of more dedicated fish content, right? What is the whiskey channel? Oh, it's if you just look at, I'll put this out. I'll put the hashtag. It makes it easy. If you want to check it out, feel free. It's still very much in process. I'm making some changes and things like that, but that's the thing when you have like a niche hobby. A lot of like niche hobbies don't connect to each other, right? So it's kind of like, I would understand if you were doing completely outside of the window content, not getting views. But it would be like if I was doing, let's say that I started doing just a ton of Aquarium 911 and only Aquarium 911 for a while. I got lazy. Bentley got lazy, and he's only trying to help fish people with their problems. I don't feel like that's a lazy thing, but like, thank you, Stephen P. By the way, I don't feel like that's like the lazy thing so much as the just like, I really do actually enjoy doing those videos, and it's really enjoyable for me because I like helping people, and it's part of why I've done a majority of my YouTube content, is I love helping people. So it would be kind of like if I put out, say, a new Ultimate Guide, because, like, Leo has put this out here. You still have the best videos for the Fluval 3.0. Thank you, by the way. I really appreciate that. And every time I get a thank you on any of my videos, it feels really good. But one of the things that always feels especially good is every once in a while I'll get a comment that's like, hey, I contacted Fluval's customer service, and they gave me a link to your videos. Like, when Fluval themselves give my videos out to help some of their customers, it is a wild feeling. Absolutely wild, right? And so it would be like if I not if, I mean when, let's be honest, because I'm going to do Ultimate Guides for all of the new Fluval lights as I can get my hands on them. It would be like if I put those out and no one watched them. Or even worse, like someone was like, well, this is an Aquarium 911, why are you doing that? Right? It would be like, that's literally like probably the most popular video on my channel is like teaching people about the Fluval lights. That would feel kind of miserable. So I can understand where like, if you're inside that same hobby, that same niche, whatever it is, right? If we could look outside of just aquariums and you got pigeonholed into something. So there is like a fear about like I'm getting so many of these that it is inherently enticing because, one, I do enjoy them. And so far, I've had so many positive comments. I want to thank all of you who watch, replay crew, those of you who are live, all of you who just like, I've had a ton of really wonderful comments that make me feel fantastic, right? Is always, it's wonderful knowing that people are really enjoying those series, and even people who aren't experiencing those problems are either going like, dude, I was dealing with that, and I did something similar, I did this, or I did something completely different and I did this, or people who are like, you have no clue how I've been needing this video right now, right? Any of those kind of like comments, whether they're like, I didn't actually need this, but I've had this problem and I fixed it this way, right? Or the people who are the silent ones out there that are struggling with something and just stumble upon the video. It feels so good to know that by helping a singular person, I can actually help multiple people. And that's one of the things that like I love the most about YouTube. It's a wonderful platform for helping folks out with a hobby that we mutually love, right? I think I've said this multiple times, like anytime I go to an event where I can just sit and talk to other fish nerds, we can not like the same fish, but we have a mutual strong love of the hobby as a whole, so that we can just sit and nerd out, even though our experiences, the things we like the most about the hobby, can be completely different. We can find that mutual love of this hobby, and that's one of the things I love the most. So to like spiral in on target, because I know I'm going all over the place right now. That's, you guys know this is usual me. Come on, let's be honest here. Let me talk about why this might be a good thing, which is to say that I literally have more requests for Aquarium 911 right now than the rate at which I'm making videos. Which probably sounds horrible, right? Because it's like I have put myself in my own purgatory. Nah, I actually enjoy this stuff. So I was having a really long conversation with my wife over the weekend. We were doing some stuff around the house, and she's been recovering from some just her particular like disability, her nerve pain, going to like 111 instead of just 11, and it happens really infrequently now, thankfully. But like typically this knocks her out for like 4 days, and so a lot of what we can do to kind of cope is just sit and talk and be human, and I do my best to play kind of caretaker. And one of the things that she's been really getting into is with her game streaming is she's trying to build a YouTube channel on the side with it. And as we get some more content kind of stuff going on it, especially anything that her and I do collaboratively together, I'll put a couple things on the community tab, just so for those of you who are gamers, if you seriously want to hear me babble about games too, we'll make that opportunity available. But keep in mind, it's my wife's content. So for those of you who've ever seen the digital avatar that hangs out here every once in a while when I ring the wife on, that's her. So we're sitting there talking, and I was discussing how I love a couple of things that I've been doing on my channels, but I feel like I need to find a way to do more. And part of the conversation was like, well, I know that like shorts are, YouTube is pushing shorts a lot, and shorts are really good at growing a channel. So if you ever wanted to get to a point of, and this is not my personal goal, but like, I guess it would be neat, of where YouTube was my job. I still don't like that concept as a whole. I want to be really clear, but more of a, if it was doing something to where like it could significantly supplement things in our life, or make it more possible to do some bigger, more bold projects, right? You'd have to do certain other things. And one of the other things I talked about is like, I'm getting so many of these requests, I'm worried I can't keep up if I don't start doing some changes. And so one of the things we talked about was like, on weekends, trying for me to batch film. And I think I mentioned this a little bit last week, where instead of me filming one at a time and going editing it, I would film something like 3, 4, or however many I can get done in a go before my brain is fried. And then go through and edit them and start putting them out, and potentially change my cadence of videos from like 1 live stream, 1 video a week to maybe even like 2 videos a week. Just because there is enough content currently in just Aquarium 911 if I discount any of the other things that I like to do, like equipment reviews, general tips, all that kind of stuff, stuff around my fish room, all the usual stuff we do, right? There's enough of that to do it for probably like, I don't know, 6 to 9 months at this point. Maybe even longer, honestly, at the rate that emails are coming in. Which is to say that so far, for every one video I put out, I've been getting about 3 emails. So if I'm only doing one a week, you can imagine how impossible that is to get up with. And also, I want to be able to get people their answers faster, which is part of the main reason why I want to like batch film things, is to try and get people their help and their answers a little quicker, which is also why, like, when we started this series, I said, like, don't come to me with your fish disease problems. 1, I'm bad at them, and 2, there will be lag time. So I might not get to it in enough time to actually help your problem. Potentially, if I do get some, like, really emergency emails, I might fire off a quick answer based on what my limited experience is fixing those problems. But, yeah. Yeah, there is that kind of statement to Laura and both Robert, you're going about this. If you have people with similar problems, can we batch them together? I haven't had anything that is the same problem yet. There's been some kind of adjacent problems, but adjacent in the sense that, let's give an example, right? We had that one problem with Anubius and then Kabamba, and both of them share a similarity in that I really think there's a level of micronutrients that are missing. But some of the extra details surrounding their problems on how to solve them are so significantly different that it is a little hard to make them the same one. Maybe change it to 711. Not quite an emergency, just some information to look up. I don't know why I find that as funny as I do, but I do. Thank you, Corey. But anyway, so one of the things I was talking about with my wife, stop bugging me, is potentially putting out more than a singular video a week and making some changes to how I film and edit things. Don't worry, I'm not going to use like crazy AI tools or any of that nonsense. They're horrible. I did play with some AI tools, and they're not great. They're really bad, actually. A lot of the auto editing things they do, they're just like, they chop entire like necessary parts out, or when they try to do subtitles, it's just a complete mess, and it takes so much work to fix them. Because things like melanotania and Bozemanii do not get transcripted very well, and I've even seen it in simple things like Taylor, as an example, like the last name Taylor being regularly spelled as in the profession Tailor. You know, so there's so many little things, and I see them. I can tell people who are using AI tools to make their shorts or some of their content because the transcription tools just are like so poorly translated, which I always find hilarious. But yeah, so some of the changes I've thought about, and like one of the other things we talked about is potentially trying to add editing and filming time to me by like not having a live stream in the middle of the week, or even going back to, for those of you who've been around the channel for a long time, we used to only have like a monthly live stream instead of a weekly live stream. Weekly became a thing during COVID, because I was trying to do more content for you guys while the world was shut down as far as I was concerned. I know it's not necessarily an accurate statement. Other places were far worse than what it was here. You're so much better than AI. Thanks, Tony. But yeah, it's just one of those things where like I've been trying to figure out changes. So there may be things, and this is like, how do I put this? This is like a forewarning, or just a kind of like things I'm thinking about, and be aware of this, is that I am thinking of trying to find alternatives or changes that will help me, one, be able to put out more content. Because I feel like one of the things I'm not doing very well, for like some of you who are members, as an example, there's a number of you, Zen Ginger, Leo, Paul Sotero, there's several more of you who might not be in chat actively right now, but there's so many of you members, and basically without you guys, this channel probably wouldn't exist. just because of the the rate at which YouTube brings in ad money. And I know I purposely like do everything I can to screw my ad revenue, but like the members are part of what make it something that is very, very active to do. And I don't know who you are, but you're probably not an important call. You get to go on the no and leave me alone. My phone's over here vibrating, sorry. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do some member-specific content that doesn't take away from my kind of personal goal, which is to make sure that there's no like paywall to content. And that example would be like any of our normal stuff. So like an Aquarium 911 video would never be a member-only video. Things like when I'm doing equipment reviews and all of that stuff would never be a member-only video. A lot of the member-only stuff would be kind of like behind-the-scenes things, or maybe like the akin of like a member hangout, right? Which would be kind of like an extra live stream here and there or something like that, where it's just, this is my way to say thank you to the people who have been members without basically any benefits other than a few emotes and some stickers. And I appreciate you, Zen Ginger, for slapping down the doggos and Danger Noodle. Rest in peace, Danger Noodle. We have noticed that our rose bush, who's right where Danger Noodle was laid to rest, has been growing really well the last couple of years. Like, crazy well. Yeah. What the? What in the mother of God? Oh, it's my garbage service. Garage Gills, prioritize 911 members' questions first. Yes. So that was one of the things that I did say, is that if you are a member and you do have a 911 question, like right in the title, put you're a member and your YouTube name, because I can reference that really quickly and I will put them to the front of the list. I know for the others who have emailed, you'll be like, but I emailed you like a month ago. That's one of the ways that I will say thank you, is if I do get 911 videos from members, you guys go to the very front of the line. Just plain and simple. I guess paywalling that. Flatbed, I appreciate you folks who work in the sanitation service. I really do, because they had to skip a pickup last week. There was some like out of market disturbance or something. I can't remember how they phrased it in this, like, my service sends me like texts and will call with an automated call when something's happening. So like when there's inclement weather and they're for the driver's safety, they're not putting them out, or during the very hottest days of the year, their service is curtailed to where they only work until a certain time of day to try and avoid the super hot weather to protect their drivers, right? Which I really love the fact that they do that. And so they'll be like, hey, we're starting way earlier. Make sure your trash is out. Buy my way to the front of the line. What is this, Disney? Yes, this is your Disney Fast Pass. Bougie Big Fish. You got that green Disney Fast Pass rolling. Sanitation engineer, I apologize. I have taken away the appropriate title. That's on me. But yeah, taking care of employees, radical concept. So anyway, like when things are happening, they send stuff to all of us who are paying for their service, and there was some out of market disturbance. I can't remember what it was, and it was like, that sounds kind of like a strike, but apparently not a strike, or something's going on. I don't know. They're basically like, hey, we're not going to pick up this week. We're going to pick up double next week. And I'm hoping this doesn't tell me it's another week they're not going to pick up, because Lord, I got too many like bags of stuff that I'm trying to not put out in the hot outside, but it's going to start getting stinky, so it's going out there one way or another. Ugh, Lord, you know how life is. Just don't do what KG did and try to keep trying and promising new video concepts and then giving up after 3 videos. poor folks have a business to run. Yeah, so that's the other thing, right? I certainly don't want to, like, suddenly go, like, wow, I'm just getting too many of these requests and I can't keep up, so I'm going to stop. Like, no. That's not happening. It's more of me trying to figure out how do I do this in a way that is tenable for me, right? Where I... Oh, is it the Republic is on strike? Well, ain't that a biscuit? I kind of figured when they said out of market conditions means strike. But yeah. I hope that things get done well. I appreciate sanitation engineers and the job they do, and they deserve to be taken care of appropriately. Their job is not easy. It is difficult. They deal with all sorts of bullshit, and they should be taken care of. It's an essential service. Plain and simple. Just like your power, just like water, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Republic Services is enormous. They're like, I think, the largest trash service in the United States. I can't remember if there's anybody that's bigger, but they're enormous. They're all over the place. Anyway, flutter back on turn. It's more of me trying to find a way to do more with my time. I'm trying to, so like, as an example, I made some during Prime Day, which sucked for basically 99% of people. But if you were a video creator, there actually were some decent sales on a number of pieces of video equipment where you could save some money. So I made some purchases to make some upgrades to hopefully, maybe side grades is more appropriate, efficiency grades. Basically, I'm trying to do some extra things that will make some of my filming faster and other parts of my filming better. So, like, as an example, anytime we do... I got some interesting ideas off the Tubes of You, and basically I'm going to set up this, like, filming rig that makes it a lot easier to switch between two cameras for doing product stuff. So anytime I'm working with a product, I will have, like, a top-down shot to make it easier to show certain things really, really cleanly and do some of my creation work that way. And then still have, like, my face cam so that at the same time I'm able to record voice and audio really cleanly and intersplice between things if I want in all the editing portions. So there's, like, just some small adjustments I'm making to hopefully basically make more stuff faster. And I'm hoping that'll work. I'm hoping that'll work. I'm basically trying to dedicate a little more of my time in an efficiency perspective. Because I know certain things of, like, what I do could be faster or better. And it just comes down to me being, making sacrifices in a few other places, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but parts of those sacrifices. So, like, as an example, because this is something I'm doing with my wife, we're both kind of doing things to play off of each other and help each other. And a lot of that involves, like, scheduling time more efficiently. So, like, as an example, if I'm going to film a video on Thursday, right, I will often, like, get home, I'll spend an hour with my wife and just kind of relax, or maybe with one of the dogs, and I'm being very, very idle. So instead what I would do is I would be kind of doing some work while I am spending that time, and one might argue, like, it seems like you're sacrificing the wrong thing, but this is something, like, kind of my wife and I have come to an agreement on, because she's going to do the same thing. So, like, there's lots of things I'm trying to help her with, her kind of YouTube endeavors as she's getting going, and she's helping me. So hopefully what that will mean is that, like, several of these things will come out, or we'll get to a point of where I can, in theory, do 2 videos a week, or a video and, like, significantly more shorts than I've been doing, while still maintaining live streams. Or some other shift might happen where we do, maybe I shift the day the live stream is done, so that it's not as much of a rush trying to get home from work, because that's one of the other problems I deal with on Tuesdays, is, well, Monday through Friday in general, is that with the time I get off work and how long it takes for me to get home from work in traffic, I am often like getting to the house with 10 minutes to get myself set up and going. And that's very stressful, if that's not obvious. So there's also some discussion of potentially changing, and I know, like Robert as an example, not really a fan of that, because it makes your Tuesday evenings a little better. But the example would be, at the same time frame, I would instead have like a video come out instead of having a live stream. So there would be some kind of content, right? As an example. So it's more about shifting things around and trying to find a way to do things more efficiently that make it possible to do more. And I hope that part makes sense. Because, like, in the time that I normally do a live stream, I could, in theory, film, like, 2 Aquarium 911 videos. So that's 2 videos filmed, and then all I have to do is edit them. And the more that I get used to doing them, the more efficient I will be at editing them, as an example. So, like, when I'm doing some of my current videos, the things that I've done for a long time, product reviews, things like that, you'll notice that I tend to have I'm a little more reined in my thoughts and a little less rambly sometimes. Or, like, when we do, like, a fish room tour, I'm kind of scatterbrained, because it's very, like, top of my head, exactly what I'm thinking about when I'm staring at a tank and all those kind of things. And maybe there's an appeal to that, because this is just who I am. It's part of not scripting any content, really. But you know, it's kind of one of the things we've been thinking about, is like, how can I, because of like not being able to keep up with this current thing, is how can I make adjustments to make it to where I can not only produce more stuff, but also feel like I'm doing a better service, if that makes sense, by getting answers to people faster for Aquarium 911 or other things, whatever other projects we decide to take on. Like, last week we talked about doing a summer tub. I'm actively engaging with that company that had that, like, waterfall box. They're, as you would expect, they're like, oh, how fast can you get this done? It's like, well, I gotta do a bunch of setup. It's not like it takes 20 minutes to film and edit and all that. And, you know, the usual expectation where they're used to somebody putting out like a 2-minute, like, TikTok reel or something, and not like a full YouTube video. Or just assuming that smaller creators will lunge at the chance to do anything, and will do it within days, rather than, like, take a reasonable creative process and try to do it right. Might not be perfect, but right. I don't know, right? What do I know? I'm just some crazy person on the internet who does this hobby that I love, but also can be kind of torturous, because I've tried to do it while doing the content creation side of it at the same time. Alright. But yeah, so I hope in that giant rambling mess I have made you guys understand why I said I can't keep up, but that might be a good thing. In that knowing that I can't keep up is leading me down conversations and process of thought to go, okay, how do I do this better? How do I get a little faster? How do I get it more efficient? How do I get myself to a point of where I'm keeping up, and not like, for every one video, 3 emails come in, and I'm just getting so buried it's literally impossible to catch up. We'll see. We'll see. My wife also had some cool ideas for, like, some shorts based on some of the Aquarium 911 stuff, but I don't know. It's a lot harder to do that as a short, but editing it might be possible from full videos. So you guys let me know. If all that stuff sounds interesting, just be like, great, or like, I can't stand you, quit that nonsense. You tell me, gang. Replay crew, you're my only hope. Do you do like a filming day and an editing day? AI shorts, yes. Oh god. Stephen P. No. The closest I'm gonna get to AI shorts is if I ever get to a point where I can just hire you, because your editing is significantly better than mine. And I know it is. And realistically, if I could, I would hire Jimmy. Because that man is a freaking wizard. Absolute freaking wizard. But I don't got to afford Jimmy money. I don't even got to afford Stephen P money. I barely got to afford Bentley money. Auto reply new email. Who dis? Okay, let me get back to Laura's question. Do you do like a filming day and an editing day? So I'm trying to. We break. Yes. As of right now, in my current schedule, there is basically a specific cadence to between the two channels I'm doing and some other things I need to do around the house and just in general in life. So, like, I do all of my water change work and stuff like that around all my tanks is every Wednesday night. And then I typically am filming Thursday night, editing Friday night. And then a video releases Saturday. And sometimes I'm ahead of the curve, where I will already have the video for, say, like this Saturday, as an example, is done last week and uploaded. And sometimes I'm rushing to burn the midnight oil to get the video on Friday edited for the next day. Like, as of right now, I'm lightly ahead. And that's just a matter of sometimes when I get a little ahead, I invest some of my other time in other problems around my house, or just life catches up to me. It's part of having a disabled significant other. Sometimes you sacrifice everything for the person you love the most. And no offense, gang, I love y'all dearly, but my wife takes precedent. My mom, my brother, they take precedent, as an example. And you all have been very understanding about that, and I appreciate you. Sorry, I had to do the fake smile, because you know how it is. We gotta like lightly be satirical about the YouTube thing, otherwise we start buying into it too much, and our ego goes even bigger than it. I already have a giant head, it doesn't need to get bigger. Your mom's angelfish. Hey, there's one left right now. When the last of my Leopoldis passes, I will probably completely overhaul that tank. And there will be a new angel tank, or angels might go in a bigger tank. I have pondered, so the tank that, see, this is all your fault, Laura. I'm going on a tangent. It's all your fault. But I have pondered the tank that is currently the Guppy Mansion. Once I move the rainbows in there that are going in there, I have pondered putting some angelfish in with them, because that is a fairly big tank. It's 140 gallons, so it can fit both. And I know how to like distract rainbows so that I can also feed angels in a tank that large, because I've done it before in what used to be my display tank but is now the retirement tank. So I've been kind of pondering that to get like a new crop of angels and let them start growing out. I would probably still do Leopoldis again, because I just really like that fish a lot. But there is a temptation to do something like the Bulgarian greens that encouraged Paul Soltero to buy. Iron Ram Fish Co. That's a really great name. I'm just putting it out there. Strong naming. Much better than like some boring idiot who just names his channel his first and last name. Who like basically doxes himself. AI builds my aquarium. Oh my lord. That would be such a cluster F, to the point of where it might actually be worth doing it. What would you say is your mom's favorite angelfish? She does really like the classic like Scolari angel. However, I know that she really likes like the marbled veil tails. If you can find the veil tail variants, ones that have the big long fittage to them, my mom loves those things. And veil tails have become really, it feels like almost scarce. I don't really see veil tail angels that often anymore. And I can remember when I was a kid, my mom really wanted veil tail angels in one of our tanks when I was younger. But I chose tiger barbs as a schooling fish in the aquarium. But we had longfin zebra danios, so who knows? Because those angels, they don't mess around. They're tough fish. But yeah, I would probably say marbled veil tail. Although I'm sure now, with all the different color variations, my mom would probably be really into like the smokier Pinoy blue angels, the ones that get really dark, that are kind of a mixture of the smoky black angelfish and Pinoy blues. I bet that would be really up my mom's alley because, again, that Depression era cobalt blue glass is like my mom's favorite thing. She's collected tons of it and loves it to death. I wouldn't be surprised if that would be where she would want to go. Tudor McGavin, what a name. What a name. Oh, by the way, next week Happy Gilmore 2 comes out. I'm trying not to like get my expectations too high because Happy Gilmore is my favorite of all the Adam Sandler films and probably one of my favorite like satirical sports films. Oh, that's My Cousin Ryan. Well, that makes a lot more sense. I just assumed that on the Sponge Boy Me Bob it's both of you and not one. Although this makes a certain amount of sense. I can only see the icons so well. Getting old, the eyes are falling apart, even with the new glasses. All right. By the way, gang, at this point, feel free at Bentley Pasco. It makes it super easy to let me see your questions, but shoot out any questions you want. We can get off topic at this point, even though we've only got like 20 minutes left. But yeah, can't wait for that movie. Yeah, I'm super excited. It's next week. Also coming up, if you're in the Carolina area, October the 2nd, the RAS, which I think is Raleigh Aquarium Society. Is that correct, Paul? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm getting paranoid that that's not correct. But Master Breeder Dean is actually going to give a talk at RAS. It's kind of a big deal, I would say. I think all of Dean's talks are really, really wonderful. Dean is just fantastic to meet and sit and talk to. So if you have the opportunity to go to that meeting, do so. Because one, he gives good talks, and two, he's just fun to sit and talk with. Zach, do you have a favorite root tab, specifically swords and frequency? I have a favorite root tab, and they don't make it anymore. There used to be these root tabs, and they were like a reddish clay that were in these little breakable squares. I really liked those a lot because they had a higher iron content. Now, that's not necessarily what you need for swords. Those were better for crypts. However, in general, I tend to actually use the Seachem Flourish root tabs. Okay, good. It is Raleigh Aquarium Society. Whew. I was a little worried. And Dean's going to be in Sacramento in September, too. Fantastic. Fantastic. Sacramento Aquarium Society, a place I need to go. Plain and simple. Mostly because I have friends down there. And they keep telling me, come down. But not to speak. They don't want me talking. And I don't blame them. There are much better people like Dean to come down to talk. Plus, they get some like really awesome guests. So, yeah. However, I will say that the Flourish tabs, coming back on target, the Flourish tabs have gotten a lot more expensive than they used to be. They used to be really cheap. And I looked up their price recently after talking on the sword video, and I was like, whoa, those went up a lot. Because it used to be like the 40 tab bag you could get was like sub $10. I think it was like $8 and some change on Amazon. Which should tell you how often I buy root tabs. Because nowadays, I am super lazy. I just use aqua soils and liquid ferts or dry ferts and just beautiful. Where now it's like, yeah, $25 to get 40 of them. They used to be sub $10. Now they're $25. They've basically dang near tripled in price. Greed. Because it doesn't cost that much to make those things. Let's go put it out there. So nowadays, I would probably start going towards something like the F-Zone, the Aquarium Co-op, any of the like capsule root tabs that are pretty efficient. Because in the end, everything that's inside them is basically the same. It's just a difference in the delivery method or maybe the raw volume of nutrients inside them. If you were doing the Seachem Flourish tabs, I probably wouldn't at this price. At this point, I think they're too expensive now. One a month is usually pretty good. Until a sword gets really big, and then you're at like one every 2 weeks. Because they will chew through it if you get a big ol' honkin' mama sword going. And I'm thinking think like Franz Stoffel's swords, and some of the other very large swords that are huge. Just absolute huge boys, right? Those are the ones that like you start doing it like every 2 weeks with even a fairly large tab. In the case of Aquarium Co-op tabs, F-Zone tabs, any like the capsule size tabs, you can still do once a month. You might be better off if you have multiple swords doing one under each sword like every 3 weeks. And then if they start going really gangbusters and get really big, you might be looking at every 2 weeks potentially. It depends on your soil and a number of different things. But yeah, I know a lot of people hate capsules. I do too, because they get kind of floaty and they can be kind of tough to get in there. I think really what that comes down to is if you're going to do things that need lots of capsules, invest in a really nice pair of pin sets. Right? Get yourself a really nice pair of aquascaping pin sets, because the better you can get the grip on them, the easier it is to bury them deep enough to where they never float up and they don't do any of the weird things on you. Where it is surprisingly easy to have them slip out of some of like your atypical Amazon cheap pin sets, aka all the kinds that I use because I'm cheap. When it comes to that stuff, I'm cheap. And you would think a guy who constantly preaches about quality would go get a really nice pair of pin sets. I just shove those in with my fingers. I mean, that's probably smart. I have, like, your atypical fat boy fingers, like big sausage fingers, and it's really hard to get in the substrate without completely screwing up everything. So, yeah. Yeah. The new Fluval Plant Light out yet. I've heard they're in some places. I have received an email saying that Fluval is going to be really nice to me and let me get some lights to review and test. But I don't know when that's going to occur. It'll probably be close to whenever they're doing their official launches. So, like, if you remember, like, anytime they've kind of officially launched, you see a number of different creators who've all gotten stuff at the same time. Like the FX2, there was a number of us who all got FX2s. I took the longest to review it because I spend the most time figuring stuff out. but you know what I'm saying? Like, you usually see, it's like any kind of tech-based hobby. When they're going for their big launch or their big announcement, you'll see a number of different people who got them all putting stuff out at the same time. I imagine that's when that's going to occur, is that they'll have a time when a number of different creators will probably get lights and be asked, like, hey, just do some stuff. They should pay you to do a video on programming it. I don't think I'm professional enough for that. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I really appreciate you, Garage Gills, but I don't think I have a professional enough filming setup to do that. Fluval's a big company. Like, their number of employees is kind of small, and they at times feel like a small company when I interact with them, and which is why I kind of love them. It's like Extreme. Like, Extreme is kind of just a small company in the grand scheme of things, even though like their fish food business has gotten surprisingly huge. They're still I still talk to the owners of the company, right? The people who started with a fish farm and started just making their own food. And like when I talk to them, it's always kind of a trip, because it's like, you have stuff everywhere. Maybe Corey can send you a camera. I mean, I have good cameras. What I mean is, like, how do I put this correctly? where I'm doing my filming and the capability of my current editing is not to the level that I would think would be a like professional paid video about how to program the lights. Does that make it more clear? Like, I have a fairly good camera, actually. I use a Sony a7 IV, which is not a cheap camera, and it's very nice. And I have some decent lenses, but it's just in general I shoot with a pretty wide lens, a kind of utilitarian wide lens. If you're ever curious, I actually have the box for it still over here. I use this, the Tamron 17 to 28 millimeter f2.8. It's actually a really nice lens, and it's way cheaper than most of like the Sony official lenses. They're god awfully expensive. You're talking like the same lens from Sony is like $2,000. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous amount of money for just the glass. But really, in a camera, the lens is probably the most important thing. So Garage Girls, the reason why they're referring, which I take as the most huge compliment known to man, the reason why they're referring people to my video is just the amount of depth I went into talking about the app, what the lights can do, and some of the settings. And I'm planning to do a significantly, basically better version of it for the new lights, because I've learned some lessons from when I did the past Ultimate Guides. And I think I can do a much cleaner, more succinct video whenever I get the new lights. And I've had some time to test them. Because I also want to test some new settings, because there's going to be some differences in them. There's some differences in the new app. And so it's learning those things and finding out the things that are, I think, the most universally helpful for people that will do the trick. I took a shot and ordered the Aquarium Co-op Snail Trap. I actually think I've looked at it a couple of times. I think the overall design of that is pretty smart. I think it's similar to something else that's out on the market. I can't remember. I tried to do some research on it at one point, and then I just gave up because I was like, yeah, I like snails. What do I care? Anyway, dropped it into a tank with an overabundance of escargot a couple of hours ago. It works. Nice. I'm glad it does. I think that's one of the products they've put out that, whether it's, cheap Chinese stuff, I kind of hate using that moniker sometimes, because honestly, there's a lot of things that just China's the only one making that kind of stuff, or that you can get that kind of stuff commission made from. So, always referring to it as cheap Chinese feels not the most accurate statement, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's one of the better products they've released in a bit. And also, because it's not an electronic product, it's basically impossible for it to fail. I do wish it were smaller, if a smaller version was available. I mean, I feel like that's a relevant piece of feedback to give them. You might almost just, email Candy in customer service and be like, hey, I think this thing is nice, but I wish there was a smaller version. Hopefully there will be a smaller version at some point. Because maybe if enough voices speak up, they will find a way to get a smaller one. Corey does listen pretty well to people in general. Like, when enough voices speak up, he tries to find it. Like, I know it took a while, but they're making a finer version of the sponge so that it's not super coarse for everyone. Yeah, and that's one thing. This particular snail trap, I forgot about that. Thank you. It is 3D printed in America. What I'm trying to say is, there's lots of Chinese-made snail traps, and I think they took some of the base design but just improved on it from ones that are made in China, stuff that you can find just all over Amazon. Sorry, my brain is a little scattered today. Okay. Non-fish related, but I think this is kind of funny, and you guys might get a laugh out of this, because it shows the dumb that goes through my poor brain every once in a while. 2 minutes before I was going to go live on a live stream, I realized that I had a box of something sitting over here that I cannot show, that I'm under an NDA for. And I was sitting here, and I was checking a few things before I was going to hit my go live button, And like I was like, okay, I'll just in case like something went wonky with the camera, I'll take down my intro thing and recheck my camera. And I was looking at it, I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, still got this ugly bandage. Got it. It looks kind of annoying, but I'm gonna leave it on because it's funny to me. And then I finally like noticed in the background like there's this box sitting here. I'm like, oh shit. Gotta hide your bong before stream. That's my wife, man, not me. No, I do this stuff. But it was something from my work that my boss, because of my doctor appointment this morning, and it's like even further south than where I live from work, so it would have taken me like 2+ hours just to get to the office after my appointment. And my boss is like, no, just take these couple of things home so that you can work from home that one day, please. Like, I can't have you coming in at basically like noon and working half a day. You're too valuable. Robert, hold on. Let me get your red root floater question. I'll try and help. I have not had the most experience with them, but the internet has conflicting info. The only common things are bright light and little to no flow, but nutrient requirement and hardness varies. So in general, floaters don't like a lot of flow. You can kind of protect them if you are using higher flow by getting one of those like little floating rings and keeping them in the floating ring, because that'll prevent them from moving all over the place. And that is kind of a method that I've seen some people in higher flow tanks keep floating aquarium plants. However, assuming you're not doing that, the biggest thing with red root floaters is this. Yes, they do like light, but they're exposed to surface oxygen, which means they're exposed to atmospheric CO2. So they're getting way more CO2 than basically anything else. Now, granted, it's not at the roots, which floaters actually kind of like epiphytes use their roots to bring in a lot of their nutrition, but they pull it from the water column. However, they do absorb an amount of CO2 from the atmosphere through their foliage. So that helps. What I have found with red root floaters in general is they're even more of a nutrient hog than a lot of the other floaters like water lettuce, etc. However, they're a nutrient hog for really specific nutrients. And a lot of them are your micros. So, most people that I have seen that really have success with red root floaters, in general, they don't like have crazy high nitrates, or they're not putting tons and tons of all-in-one fertilizer. What they are doing is they have, Chance, you're beating me to the point. They actually have low, leaner amounts of nitrate, because a lot of super red plants actually do better with nitrate starvation. When they have lots of nitrates, they can green up or sometimes even die. So you want to keep your nitrates pretty lean. So this is where we might do a more lean dosing method of fertilizer in our aquarium. If we're dealing, say if you're like me, where normally you're targeting like 20 ppm, you might make some shifts to try and keep yourself more at that like 10 or less ppm and be dosing more frequently in very small amounts to keep at that point kind of continuously in your water. And two, something like Flourish Trace or Brightwell's Florin Multi, any of the things that give you all your micros and only your micros, you might want to do a little extra dosing with that, because they are a bit more of a micro hog than some of the other floating plants that are out there. It's part of where their demand comes in, and I think it's one of the things that a lot of people slip on because they rely on like all-in-ones or just a certain amount of nitrates, or, well, I just need high light and I just need the low flow. They actually chew through quite a bit of extra micronutrients. Boron is one of the actual things they consume quite a lot of, even though they don't flower. Well, I mean, they can flower, but they're not active. The boron isn't about getting them to flower. They chew up extra boron just by nature. But in general, if you're dosing extra micros, it helps a lot. That is what I've learned from friends that have been really, really successful with red root floaters. And I trust them because they know what they're doing. So that's my advice to you. Try to keep your nitrates lower, a little leaner consistently, That low flow is great. High light is great. Micros. Micros are your friend. So if you're not doing a micro supplementation, I would look at doing that. There you go. There's another one from Anna Banana on red root floaters. Mine had longer and better color roots when they were in 0 nitrate, barely growing and reproducing. Higher nitrate, higher reproduction, less color. Yeah. Does hardness water. I have some rock hard water, 370 TDS, and some softer water, 120 to 150 TDS. Only had the plant for 3 days. I use dry fert so I can def dose micros. In general, my understanding is they tend to prefer soft water. And that's just a matter of where they come from. Naturally is relatively soft water. The pH doesn't necessarily matter because you can have soft water with pH that's in like the mid 7s, right? That's what literally happens in Washington. Our water is like 28 to about 36 or 40 TDS out of the tap in the Seattle area, that is. Eastern Washington's way different. But our water is very basic, meaning that it is a little alkaline and the pH is naturally higher, usually 7.4 to 7.6 out of the tap. So it's like kind of the opposite of what you expect, because usually you expect that pH to go up means you probably have a reasonable amount of extra total dissolved solids, usually general and carbonate hardness. But we have like none of that stuff in our water, but our water is naturally a little basic because we're weird. There's some extra details from Chance. 120 total DDS, pH was 7.8, GH around 12. So some general hardness, but not a ridiculous amount, right? We're not talking liquid rock, but we've got some in there. 12 degrees is a decent amount. All right, gang. I think we're going to cut it here. I want to thank you guys so much. Replay crew and any of the rest of you, if you have ideas, suggestions, whatever, the topic we've talked about, me kind of like finding some ways, basically me trying to do better. I'm trying to be a better YouTube's personality. I have to laugh at it. You know I have to laugh at it. But seriously, if you do have any suggestions, like I'm totally up with you. We'll have more Aquarium 911 coming up. And then in the near-ish future, we have a few other things that are going on. Like there'll be new tanks getting set up and some other changes in my fish room, and those will all have some stuff. And then eventually, we'll get new fluval lights and we'll do videos on those too. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome. Also, sorry, last note, not related to anything, but congratulations to Cal Raleigh for winning the All-Star Game Home Run Derby. If you don't know who that is the Mariners catcher, nicknamed Big Dumper. And he is only the second Mariner all-time to win the Home Run Derby. And if he keeps his current pace, he could break the home run record without steroids like Barry Bonds used to use. Go Big Dumper.